purchase that paint for him.
Everyone who doesn't know the story is like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay,
so good.
here's a good example. I think his name is Kevin. I forget what his last name is. In Computech, that's essentially his platform.
Yeah, Kevin McLeod.
His music. You can use it as long as you copy and paste this like somewhere in your video so people can read it and see that it's his music. And I'm sure you've all heard some of his music before.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where. Can't place it.
I've used a piece or two of.
Or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7.
Actually, I used to use his music a lot more, but since I got access to the Epidemic sound library through my my network, I've been using a lot of their stuff too, and that's great because you don't have to give anybody credit.
Hey.
It's non-attribution.
Feels weird.
I'm stumped.
May I throw something out here?
Please.
Yeah, go.
I have a question for the group, particularly Steve, since we all know that movies are your thing. Who else here has seen Ad Astra?
I have not seen it yet.
I'll tell you right now. I mean, I'll be very interested in hearing your impressions of it if you ever do get out and see it, because I mean, I saw the ads on TV and all this, and I thought, wow, an intelligent space flick, terrific. Right. It is one strange buckaroo. That is as much as I'll say about it. But yeah, it is I mean, you could call it something maybe of a rites of passage, sort of, maybe not quite, but it is just an odd puppy dog. Seriously. And I really would like to hear other people's impressions of it, because it just sort of, okay, really? That just happened? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
I unfortunately have not seen it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to throw out here, since I threw it out in the pre-show, because I happen to think it is very neat, and that is this thing that came up from Amazon Prime called Undone. I really, really like it. It's rotoscope live action animation, and it involves shifting realities, and it is. I think it's like nothing I've ever seen before, and I think it's just brilliant.
Yeah, I've seen it advertised a lot. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet.
I've seen some clips from it. I really need to find to sit down and watch it, because it does look very good. And I just can't get enough of Rosa Salazar. She's just so darn sincere in her performances.
Yeah. She reminds me of an actress from maybe 20 or 30 years ago. I can't place her exactly, but a lot of the same visual facial attitudes, and she does come across as very genuine in her work, and I really like that.
And I really love her voice. She's got that ever so slightly raspy, scratched kind of quality. I don't know if what I'm saying, I don't know. There's just something very unique about it.
Squirrel.
On the edge of irritated.
Yeah. So good stuff. Oh, I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. But has anybody here seen the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance yet?
Not yet. No. I literally just finally saw the original Dark Crystal, courtesy of whatever happened. Yeah, maybe a month or so ago.
God, Alice just had a body snatchers moment there.
I will say, the series is quite different.
Yeah, I would imagine. Although, I mean, I've seen some making of stuff where they're busting their butts trying to recreate the original characters and all that.
Oh, and they did a great job.
I'm intrigued enough to want to dig in on that, but I just, you get to be my age, and you're not horribly anxious about a whole lot of anything unless something really bites you on the tailbone.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm sure it'll just only get worse and worse as I continue to age.
I will say my favorite thing about the Dark Crystal in general, but especially some scenes in Age of Resistance, something I've realized, the Skeksis are some greatest villains ever conceived. not the deepest, not the most relatable, but for fulfilling the purpose, the function of a villain. Everything about them, for the way they talk and eat and regard the world and people around them, was immaculately crafted to be repulsive and easy to hate. And they succeeded at an excess. So that's what I mean by like they are some of the greatest villains ever conceived because they ooze it. They're the kind of hammy, like stuff like performative villains you would see in a Saturday morning cartoon, but they're doing completely macabre and twisted, horrible things. Like
The apotheosis of the bad guy.
There you go.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that kind of villain. I love it.
Well, I used to say that I like my villains to be more three-dimensional and have more depth so that you can see, not necessarily relate to them, but understand where they're coming from. And I still enjoy that more, but I used to say it was because it was not believable, but current news cycles have taught me otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and like there is, as
There
a writer,
are pull butterfly wings off bad guys.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
well, and it's like as a writer and as a storyteller, like you're always taught, and your instinct is to treat everybody as a human being and to try to understand and flesh everybody out and have three-dimensional characters. But sometimes, like if you're portraying like people who are doing really evil things, there's, I think, a danger in going too far and humanizing them too much, because then you get into a situation where like people actually start to identify with the evil person.
Don't make them like relatable or sympathetic. You just like, I mean, people have reasons for why they come into these things. They're bad reasons, but they're reasons. Right.
Yeah. And it can be a difficult needle to thread. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, because I was happily surprised that I didn't think that the Joker movie was that. I didn't think the Joker movie was inviting us to like identify with Arthur. And that was something that I think a lot of people were sort of concerned about, like especially in our current climate, where it's like, oh, we made a movie about an isolated middle-aged white guy who turns to, mass murder, and he's the hero. No. I don't think it crosses that line where it's like, yeah, actually he kind of has a point, but I feel like, but there's room there for a lot of people to interpret it that way.
Steve,
I saw Christy.
Here's the thought: is the point of I haven't seen it yet myself, and I'm probably not going to until it shows up on HBO or whatever.
Yeah.
But is the point maybe the fact that you could have a brush with somebody like that?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there's, especially toward the end, there is a lot of, this happens because of the way society treats people, and that in a sense, like, anybody could be him in the right circumstances. Which is kind of I mean, that's sort of a trope from a lot of Joker stories, but like in the Killing Joke, that was one of the things that that was one of the points the Joker tried to make, was like, oh, if you had been through what I went through, you'd be the same way,
Yeah, he believed that just one bad day like that would turn anybody crazy. I personally found this a little more realistic because it spanned over the course of like a week or two, and it's like just when you think he's starting to reel back from the last thing, he gets slammed with another thing. I will say, whether or not I was supposed to sympathize or empathize with him, there were points where I did.
Oh, sure.
Like, okay, like I'm the kind of person who vicariously gets embarrassed. If I can just see somebody is about to make an ass of themselves, I feel awful. My stomach ties in a knot. I'm like, no, don't. So like when he gets up on stage, and of course he has a laughing fit, and even once he starts getting to the jokes, they're terrible. He's not a good comedian. I just felt awful. I just do. I can't help it. I'm too compassionate that way. But I can say it's an objectively good film. It was an extremely affecting film. It did make me feel disgusted.
And I think I like Joaquin Phoenix has that capacity in his performances to he plays characters like that a lot, and I've compared him. I've compared him before to Robert Mitchum in the sense that he's able to he can play characters that seem really dangerous. And that was something that Mitchum, I think, was really good at. He would, like, especially in like something like Night of the Hunter, where he played a character that he seemed genuinely dangerous. You really were kind of scared of him, even when he was just being normal and calm, because you were like, any second now. And Joaquin Phoenix can impart that same quality to characters. Like in The Master, I thought he was like that a lot, where it's like he's playing this guy who is just barely keeping himself together moment by moment, and like any second now he's just going to snap and you don't know what he's going to do. And he was like that in Joker in quite a few scenes where it's like, you know, oh shit, what's he going to do? You know, but at the same time you also have great sympathy for him because he does seem so sad and like he's trying so hard, you know, to fit in or to find something that works for him, and just nothing is working, and everybody mistreats him, and you do sympathize with him, and then he starts murdering people. And you're like, oh, okay.
But in a weird way, even though, say, like characters like the Waynes are the farthest thing from saints, you do kind of sympathize with Thomas Wayne wanting to protect his family from this weirdo who touched his kid's face. Like anyone would be freaked out by that. And even Arthur's boss, who was so mean to him, you got to look at it from his perspective. It's like, okay, this guy keeps getting into trouble. His stories don't seem to hold much water, and yeah, he is genuinely creepy at times. So what's the guy say?
Yeah.
Well, how far away is that from Bob Parr of The Incredibles? I mean, he's not especially creepy, but he's, you know, missing work. He's doing odd things here and there. And the less said about his boss as, you know, and that brought up a point, the whole business that I mentioned earlier about brushing somebody, you know, and having a brush with somebody like the Joker.
Yeah.
There's a conversation in the middle of Raiders of the Lost Ark between Belloc and Indy, where Belloc says to Indy, you know, it would only take a nudge to push you out of the light to make you like me. What if they did an Indiana Jones where that happened?
Oh,
that would be interesting. I mean,
yeah, because at Indiana Jones, as he's been to this point, has been, I think, maybe almost extraordinarily resistant to that impulse. But if it? Yeah, but I think. I don't even know if Harrison Ford would, you know, be up for something like that, but I think it'd make a hell of a story. In the arc of Indiana Jones, I think it'd make a hell of a story. I mean, sure. You know, the whole business of the guy falling from grace and then, you know, one way or the other coming back to grace, if you will.
Yeah, like kind of a redemption story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because, you know, one of the points, because we're like talking about Joker and, you know, the idea that all it takes is one bad day. Like I think one of the points about in the most famous story where he says that in The Killing Joke, like I think one of the points that a lot of people miss is that Batman refutes that point. You know, like the Joker's, and so does Commissioner Gordon. Like Commissioner Gordon refutes it more than Batman does, because like the plot of the story is that the Joker kidnaps Commissioner Gordon and basically tortures him to try and break him to prove the point that like all it takes is one bad day and anybody would be just like me if they had been through what I've been through. And Gordon
But if you think about it, Batman did go through one very bad day, and what does he do? He dresses up like a bat and beats up poor people.
It's a mixed message.
But he is about. My point is, he is about as crazy as the people he puts away.
But he doesn't murder people,
right?
Usually.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously the argument they're making is nonsense, because there's 7 billion of us. We all go through bad days and times, and it's just kind of like they're just trying to excuse their actions, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're trying to excuse their actions or they're just trying to fuck with the hero, whatever it may be.
Well, you know, there's a similar point, like the Joker has a similar point to make in The Dark Knight, where he's, you know, everybody's rotten, everybody's shit. You know, if you put enough stress on people, they'll all become criminals. And again, that movie, at least in part, refutes that point. Like in the case of like the people in the ferry boats, who decide not to blow each other up, like the Joker is wrong, because they are in that situation and they decide not to kill each other to save themselves. But then he's also kind of right when it. Well,
I
yeah, go ahead.
I actually really enjoyed just a blink and you'll miss it bit after he figures out that that they're not going to blow each other up. One's not going to blow up the other. And when he realizes that, he shows that he is just an instrument of chaos and, like Alfred said, just wants to want the world to burn, and that he doesn't actually believe what he's saying because he goes to blow a boat up.
Yeah.
When he finds out they're not going to do it on their own.
Yeah, he says you have to do some things yourself.
I like the retort where, his cheesiest Christian Bale's delivery is, he says, "What were you trying to prove? That deep down everyone's as ugly as you?"
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah.
Yeah. Haven't you been paying attention?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's and that's something else about the Joker movie that I think it kept me at a little bit of a distance from it, where, like, as I said in my review video, like there was parts of it that I did really, really like and admired, and there were parts of it that I just didn't think were that great. And one of them was like when there's a point near the end when Joker says he says to someone, "Oh, I don't believe in anything." And I'm like, okay, that's a good moment, because that's kind of like a classic Joker. Because in most versions of the Joker, at least most modern versions of the Joker, I would say that's probably true, that he doesn't really have core beliefs. He's just sort of a nihilist and just likes to kill people, and that's the Joker. And people like project complexity onto him when really there's not that much there. But then
there is just one very sorry.
No, but then he's on the talk show and he gives that speech like right near the end about people like Thomas Wayne don't care about people like me, and he's so impassioned that it's like, I don't know, it sounds like he means that. Like, it sounds like he does actually have
that's
beliefs.
when he finally started to believe in something.
Yeah.
There's just one very, very last thing I want to say about it, and then I think we should try to shift to one more topic in the few minutes we have.
Sure.
Okay. One thing I thought they captured very well was, again, the physicality. I love it when the Joker is this skinny, frail looking, creature, basically, who on a dime can become downright demonic. Like this scene where he just goes on that guy in his apartment like a bat out of hell. And it's frightening. It's unnerving. It looks like a man possessed, and that's something you see a lot in the cartoons and games and such. Is how, he might not look that physically intimidating, but he can transform.
He's wiry.
I thought they did.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens with the influence of testosterone and adrenaline. Which reminds me. And I have to do another Who Has Seen again. The new Watchmen.
No, but I hear it's really good.
Once again, fasten your seatbelt, fasten your brain belt, because it's. I mean, I see the extension from the original, from the original movie and all that stuff, but President Redford.
I saw that and I was like, "Oh, that's too fucking good." And he's actually in it, right? He actually plays like Robert Redford. If he's in it,
I haven't. He doesn't show up in the first episode that I am aware of.
I think I saw
they had him in stock footage that I missed.
But yeah, I thought, "Oh, come on, that's perfect." President Robert Redford. Yeah, but I haven't seen it yet. But the reviews.
I mean, especially considering going from President Richard Nixon.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 terms of Nixon,
or 7 or 8.
Yeah, however many that would be, because he's still president, like in the 80s, in the like 1980. I think the original takes place in 85, and he's Nixon as president. So yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
anyway,
yeah.
To Tanya, who just jumped in, I'm sorry that for the past several minutes we've just been waxing lyrical about this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't let me wax lyrical a lot.
So good.
It's just our way.
Wax on, wax off.
It's all good.
Tanya knows the deal.
Yep.
She's all comfy too, isn't she?
Yeah. I got a stuffed hedgehog.
Oh, it's so cute.
Come on.
Hedgehog.
Hedgehog pillow.
No.
Yes. And my coffee, so I'm ready.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. There is one very, very, very last thing I want to say, and this is kind of spoilery. Okay. But look, the moment I remember when photos were first released of what he would look like with the suit and the makeup and everything. People were saying, I don't know, he doesn't really look like the Joker to me. This is kind of strange. But then you see at the end of the movie, when he paints, his smile on with his own blood, I'm like, hey, that's it. He just completed his transformation. Kind of perfect movie magic moment that I go to the theaters for.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking when I was watching it, even before that moment, I thought, I mean, the clown makeup is a little different than you usually associate with the Joker, but in terms of the overall look, like the costume and the hair, and like it's much closer to like the classic like 1970s Joker look than I've ever seen in a movie.
There's just something I love about the trope where, like, for most of the story, someone looks like they're kind of transitioning to what they become, and it's not quite there, it's almost there, and at the last minute they there's like that one extra detail, and it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Daredevil season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it's I'm still getting comments on my review video from people who are like, you don't get it, it's the greatest movie ever. I'm like, okay, look, what do you want from me? I said I liked it. Like, I have some problems with it, but I liked it.
I like Christy Winter's comment. You said in your video, does anyone want to see my review? And she thought that was funny because yours was the only one she was interested in seeing.
Well, that's Christy, though. I mean, we go way back. But, I mean, it does. I don't know. Like, I know it has made a ton of money, and, it's become a very popular movie, but it does kind of feel like after the first week, it kind of dropped out in terms of, like, people talking about it in like, pop culture. Like it was everywhere the couple weeks leading up to its release. The week it came out, everybody was talking about it, and then it just sort of like was okay.
It's weird. It's weird how culture spreads. I heard that, I don't know if it was Lebanon, but protesters there are wearing Joker makeup to defy face identifying. Wow. I just thought that was so bizarre. It's weird what other countries pick up on from us, and it means something different to them.
Yeah. Did they see the movie?
Yeah, I doubt most of them have. But they just got onto that.
That's the other thing that is kind of like potentially problematic about it. Is like, on the one hand, it's like, you have this subplot in the movie where it's like, oh, poor people are rising up against the rich, and you're like, okay, cool, and then you're like, and they've adopted the iconography of a serial killer. Right? Like, what?
Well, Steve, real quick.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta.
That's true.
Yes.
But V for Vendetta, but see, V for Vendetta I feel like that has, especially the comic, and I think the movie too, it has more layers of complexity to it. Like, I feel like the thing with Joker that's frustrating is, like, I don't know how much conscious messages are in there. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can interpret it in a lot of different ways. Like something like V for Vendetta, like, it's obvious a ton of thought went into that in terms of the text and the subtext and presenting things
subtext.
Yeah, oh god. And presenting things in like complex, ambiguous ways so you're not quite sure what you're supposed to think. And with Joker, it's like, is that it? Or is it just that they weren't sure? Because it's hard to tell, because it's superficially, it's really good, and it's a great like aping of the aesthetic of 70s like New York City movies, like Scorsese movies and Shaft movies, where it's like, oh man, it looks so awesome. And then you're like, yeah, and is there stuff going on under the surface? Is there like a point to this that's a little more subversive? Maybe. I don't know.
The world may never know.
Yeah. Like, does the guy who made The Hangover have something important to say? I don't know. Maybe
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. It is kind of strange. Like, Todd Phillips has had such an interesting career trajectory. It is sort of like if all of a sudden, like, the director of Weekend at Bernie's decided to make like a gritty crime drama.
Well, what about McCarthy and the stuff that he did before he did Spotlight?
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. Or
so I'm really,
yeah.
I would say that's what I'm really looking forward to. Although I think I'm gonna have to go way out of town to see it. See Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, I really want to see that. Yeah, that
It's
looks really good.
you know, I'm in too deep when I hear like someone bring that up, you know, Jojo Rabbit, and the first thing I think of is the other Jojo, because all my friends talk about that.
I have no idea what we're talking about.
Hey, Miss Geek.
Jojo Rabbit is it's Taika Waititi, and it is a coming of age comedy set in Nazi Germany. About a young kid who is a member of the Hitler Youth, whose mother is secretly...
Funny already.
No, this is all in the trailer. Whose mother is secretly like hiding a young Jewish girl from the Nazis, and also the kid Jojo has an imaginary friend who is Adolf Hitler, who is portrayed by the director Taika Waititi, and is apparently hilarious. And there's a moment, because one of the clips they've released and is partially in the trailer is like Jojo. I guess Jojo has just had like a bad day or a bad time with his friends, and he's sitting alone in the woods, and then it like pans over, and there's Hitler like leaning against a tree, and he's like, "Hey Jojo, what's the matter?" And the kid tells him about what he's upset about, and he's like, "Come on, don't be upset. You know, people used to say all kinds of mean things about me. Oh, that lunatic! Look at that psycho. He's gonna get us all killed." You know, like. So I really want to see it.
And once again, I'm stuck.
That's all right. It's been our hour anyway.
Yeah, I think we're gonna.
Can I throw in one more thing real quick?
Please.
Although it hasn't even shown up yet, but I'm intrigued with it, especially since what came before it seems to have gotten cut off at the knees.
Yeah.
His Dark Materials on HBO. Because the Golden, it's an arc of 3 books, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way I understand it, the Roman Catholic Church went after Golden Compass and basically, as I said, cut them off the knees, did not want anything to go forward. If they can do that with HBO, I think they're accomplishing something, and I don't think they're going to have any success. I think Dark Materials is going to lead on to the next book after that, and the next book after that. Well, and I'm going to watch it purely because they tried to stop it.
The Golden Compass had major problems because they like tried to tone it down, so get all the religious aspects out of a book that was specifically anti-religious. So you're going to have people who wanted to see that side of it, not like the movie, and then the religious people aren't going to change their mind because you took that out.
Gee, you think?
So yeah, like they were going to appeal to no one.
Who's going to see this movie?
I am. Well, it's a. I don't know when it starts, but I tell you what.
I mean the original one, not
the movie, the one with Nicole Kidman and the Golden Compass, yeah. I just want to see it because Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it.
Oh yeah, just him all by itself.
I haven't seen. I don't know. I probably won't see Mary Poppins Returns. I mean, it's been out on streaming for a while and I haven't watched it yet.
It's not great.
His star power doesn't pull me that far. But like, if it's something that I'm sort of halfway interested in and I see he's in it, I'm like, oh, okay.
I love Mary Poppins and I had high hopes and it sucked.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't even know if I'd go as far as to say it sucked. There was like bits of brilliance in it, but
there were good.
It was mostly just,
Yeah, it was.
which is too bad because like Miranda's great in it.
Had a great cast. Emily Blunt, right?
Yeah, and she like captures Mary Poppins great, but there's just nothing in the script.
It seemed like, well, it's anytime they do like a sequel to a movie and it's way, way, way after the first movie, it feels a little, like, oh, why are they, like
difficult to do?
Why are they doing that? Well, yeah, and it feels like kind of like, oh, they just want to make money. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing's
well,
demanding
witness
this story.
what Disney's been doing lately. I mean, they're
Yeah.
doing live action recreations of
Yeah,
everything
what
in
is
its mother. I mean,
Actually, there's a reason for that, and that's because Walt Disney put in like the way they have to release the videos. If you remember when they were releasing the videos, they had to update them every 10 years and re-release them.
Mhm.
And they would remaster and put them back out previously. Well, now instead of remastering them or digitizing them like they did previously, now they're like, well, we'll do a live action version.
Yeah.
So they have to do something. It's in their bylaws or whatever.
I think there's going to be like now we're entering a cycle where like every 20 years they're just going to keep alternating live action and animated versions of the same story. So when I'm like in my 60s, they'll do an animated remake of the live action remake of the original Lion King, and it'll just keep going like that forever.
Steve, I'll tell you what. I was when the last time I was in Walt Disney World, and they had a chance to talk with one of the people who actually worked on which one was it? Mulan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I asked him about it because I said this was the first time that they had done something outside of the European tradition of fairy tales, and it turns out they had wanted to do Mulan for years and years and years, and just hadn't come up with the right through line to make the whole thing work. My impression is, I wonder. My sense I got from the conversation was that they had more ideas out there. I'm almost wondering if they're kind of afraid to introduce something new for the possibility of falling on their face with something.
Yeah, or it's also possible that there are people higher up in the company that just don't get it. I feel like that's probably a conflict. I know it was a problem with the Marvel movies until relatively recently, and I'm sure it's a problem like anytime you have a situation where like creative people are under the authority of executives who aren't really creative people, and you have to convince this empty suit that the movie you want to make is a good idea, and he just doesn't get it at all.
And we all have heard the saying that is true as well as witty, that a camel is a horse that was designed by a committee.
Exactly.
We're in this weird stretch where it's like the pop culture is eating itself like a Ouroboros. People just want to see more of the things they already know they like. There just isn't much room for brand new things to penetrate the market.
I think that's the wrong way of causality on that one. It's the producers aren't comfortable putting a lot of money into something unless it follows a formula that's already worked.
Well, it's the Doctor Strange thing where he doesn't want to risk his reputation on a procedure that might ruin him.
Yeah, exactly. It's established. I mean, that's the reason why they made another Mary Poppins movie, because it's an established brand, and they were like, well, everybody knows this shit. Let's just give them more of this, and they don't have to work as hard developing something completely from scratch because they have the bones already there, and you can just be like, let's.
Well, they also know they'll have somebody. They'll have a few people at least that will automatically go. If it's something completely new, they don't want to fully get behind it, even if a lot of people are excited about it, it seems like, because you don't know.
Yeah.
It might not catch on to the general public.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's that attitude is they sometimes you can catch them actually openly saying that to justify stuff. Like I remember a couple years ago when the Ghost in the Machine movie came out, and everybody was like, why did you cast Scarlett Johansson to play the lead in an adaptation of an anime that you would think would have Japanese characters? Ghost in the Shell, that would have Japanese characters, you would think. And the studio said, well, we wanted a marketable star, and we couldn't find any. We didn't think we had any Asian actors that were big enough stars to carry the movie. And and it's like, but I mean, Scarlett Johansson wasn't a star either until she was. Like, it's not like if you put someone in a movie and it's a great movie and a lot of people go see it, then you have a star. You know what I mean? Like Harrison Ford was nobody until he made Star Wars, and then he was a huge star. It's not like that's not that you have to make stars.
Well, it's just
stars. Ghost in the Machine already had a following. That's the thing I don't get. It's like you could have put someone, if you're going to follow Ghost in the Machine, you follow a little bit of Asian culture, so you could have put somebody who was famous in Asia rather than her.
It's because
I don't know.
these
People would have
executives look, these executives, they think anime is a weak sauce and that people in America don't really like it. So if they are going to waste any money, there's something inspired by anime, they better squeeze all the star power they have out of it because it has no other legs to stand on, apparently.
Yeah, well, and it's
Yeah.
not just that. You can put it in 2 words: risk averse. That's what they are.
Mhm.
Here's the thing they don't understand. Anime became popular and mainstream a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
We're just one of the few countries still pretending that it isn't.
It's-
But around
yeah.
the world, things like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are way more popular than something like the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, and then after this we'll wrap up. It's like how superhero comics were maybe 20 years ago, and how like something like hip hop was maybe 30 or 40 years ago, where like it's super popular, but the people who are in charge of the mainstream cultural gatekeepers haven't caught up to it yet.
Exactly.
And and you would say like, well, I mean, a lot of people listen to hip hop. It's really popular. Maybe we could, like we could sign some artists. We could use some songs on soundtracks. No, people don't like that music. Like, but they do. Like we maybe we could make some superhero movies and just do it like they do it in the comics, and it would have a huge audience. I don't know. Do people really like those movies? Yeah, people love this shit. Everybody likes it. Like the same thing with anime. Like it's super popular among so many people. There's a built-in audience already there. It's just that the people in charge of like the tippy top studios haven't quite caught up to it yet, and still see it as like a niche thing. Like superheroes were a niche thing too until about 15 years ago, and now they're everywhere. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this was fun.
It usually is.
This is always fun. So happy Halloween, everybody.
Yes.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy
I
Halloween.
miss Geek.
Yeah, we miss you, Geek. Geek would want me to remind everybody of charity links, and our friends who are in need of a little bit of assistance. Charity links are linked in the description of the video. And actually, I don't think they are on this one. I'll have to paste them in. But I will paste in the charity links after we are done, and you can help some of our friends out who need a hand. And also, it's I would never call it a charity link, but my Patreon page is there as well. If you feel like supporting my channel.
An income link.
Yes.
If you feel like supporting my channel.
Well, you are a charity case, Steve.
I always got my hand out. I've always got my hand out. I actually saw. I'll never forget. I went to a church service years ago with my girlfriend at the time, and I'll never forget the pastor actually said, "I'm tired of people saying that the church asks for money. The church hardly ever asks for money." My head almost blew up. I could not. I was like looking around, going, "Am I the only one who heard him say that?" Like they passed the
Who does
collection plate.
this guy think he's kidding?
They passed the collection plate like 20
Oh, my
minutes ago.
goodness.
How can you say the church never asks? They ask every single time.
Every Sunday.
Wait, did he have a stroke just before he said that?
It's like, what are you talking about? What kind of mental gymnastics do you have to go through so that the collection plate doesn't count as asking for money?
Well, we don't. We just say we're passing the donation plate. We don't.
Yeah,
say we're
we don't
asking for money.
Wait, you don't. I mean, as far as you know, it's people just showing a plate off.
They're
It's like they're
volunteers,
saying,
Tessie.
"Hey, it's entirely on you if you were dumb enough to give us money."
Yeah, that's why, and that's also
Well-
why we have special envelopes printed out so
Right,
that you can
just
put
for
your
that.
Yeah, but we're not asking for money.
Not at all.
It's like, just admit it. Everybody's cool with it. everybody who goes to church knows about just admit it. Everybody knows. Why are you
Like
lying?
ATMs and donation apps now for
Right.
churches.
Like,
What?
why are you
They have
lying?
ATMs in the back of churches, and they have like churches where you can donate on your phone
Yeah.
app or
Oh my God.
PayPal.
So they
Keeping up with the times.
Yeah, what is the opposite of preaching to the choir?
they do the app thing. So now they really don't have to ask.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fun as always. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to all of you for being here, for joining me. And happy Halloween, everybody. We'll do this again a month from now. So take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yay.